Part 2. My son only wanted to use my money to pay for his own private family vacation audio story. The airport meeting felt like the beginning of an unexpected choir. Carol arrived first, clutching a canvas tote that had seen too many grocery runs and not enough holidays. Beverly followed her brother's hospital ID tag, still pinned to her purse as a silent reminder of duty temporarily set aside. Frances appeared with a suitcase, almost as old as she was, its handle wrapped in pink ribbon so she could spot it quickly. Nora wheeled up next, wide-eyed whispering that the last time she flew anywhere, the pilot still handed out plastic wings to children. Lucille and Dory came together, laughing, already startled by the sight of their own boarding passes. At the gate, the agent scanned our tickets. No errors, no frantic calls, just 6 women blinking back tears of disbelief. During the ascent, Frances squeezed my hand and murmured, "I didn't know skies could still open for me." We landed in Honolulu to a swirl of warm air scented with plumeria. A driver held a card reading Miss Monroe and guests. No one had ever held a sign for Carol before. Her eyes shone like wet glass. The ride along the coast left us silent, every curve revealing more turquoise water than any postcard had promised. Beverly pressed her forehead to the window and whispered a quiet thank you, as if the ocean itself had arranged this welcome. The villa perched on a low cliff-white walls wrapped in bougainvillea glass doors opening straight to the sea. Inside bedrooms stretched out in a gentle arc, each bed made with crisp linen and a single hibiscus bloom. I carried the wrapped walnut frame to the dining room and set James at the center of the long table. No one asked why. They simply nodded, acknowledging a 7th presence among us. That first evening we gathered on the terrace. Waves hissed below, tiki torches flickered, and the chef grilled mahi-mahi that tasted like sunlight turned into flesh. Carol offered the first toast, with hands that shook from equal parts arthritis and awe. "To being seen," she said. Glasses clinked, and something lifted off our shoulders. After dinner, I brought out the lavender candle. 6 pairs of eyes followed me. Each night I explained one of us will light this and share a sentence we once needed to hear. I struck the match flame flaring, then settling. My words came easily. "You are not a burden." Wax pooled around the wick while the others sat very still, letting the phrase wash over them. Daylight poured into the villa every dawn, waking us like gentle applause. We filled mornings with simple pleasures. Dory led slow stretching on the sand. Lucille, who had cataloged thousands of books but never dipped a toe in the Pacific, waded out knee-deep and laughed when a wave surprised her. Nora collected shells so carefully it looked like prayer. Beverly dozed in a hammock, the scent of gardenias curling around her like a lullaby she never knew she needed. Midweek, we tried a beginner's hula class arranged by the concierge. Carol's bad hip protested, yet she insisted on learning each hand motion. "If my feet can't dance my arms," she declared, wrists tracing stories in the air. The instructor smiled and said she was already a natural. Lunches stretched long under a pergola tangled with vines. We told stories rarely granted center stage. Frances described the bus that took her to the wrong town on the night before her wedding rehearsal. Instead of panic, she spent the evening eating pie with strangers who offered directions, and she still remembered the taste of kindness in the crust. Nora admitted she had kept every thank you note from patients over 40 years of nursing and read them when loneliness grew loud. Lucille confessed she spoke fluent Italian from her catalog days, then demonstrated by ordering us another round of iced lattes from an unsuspecting waiter who blushed and complied. Each night, a new voice offered a sentence beside the candle. "Carol, you are allowed to rest." Beverly, "Your story matters." Lucille, "You never have to earn love." Frances, "You are not invisible." Nora, "You still belong here." No one interrupted, no one deflected with jokes. We simply held space, a room full of witnesses confirming one another into relief. Halfway through the week, I woke before sunrise and brewed coffee. James's photo caught the first coral light spilling through the glass doors, his grin somehow wider in the island dawn. I thought about Nathan's email sitting unanswered in my inbox, its request for a refund disguised as reconciliation. I let the thought drift out the open door and vanish with the breeze. The mug in my hands felt warm, real present. Regret felt distant, an echo from some other shoreline. On our final afternoon, we boarded a small catamaran for a sunset sail. The skipper played old slack key guitar tunes. The hull sliced through water clear enough to see green sea turtles gliding below. Beverly leaned over the rail, tears rolling unchecked. I cared for my brother so long I forgot what fresh wind felt like, she said. I slipped an arm around her shoulders, and we watched the horizon paint itself gold. Dinner that night was simple grilled pineapple coconut rice and fresh catch wrapped in Thai leaves. Laughter rose and fell in gentle swells. Francis taught us a chorus of an old lullaby. Dory harmonized until even the geckos peered from the rafters as if to listen. When plates were cleared, I lifted the candle once more. Only one remained unlit. The women followed me down the path to the beach torches guiding our steps. Moonlight lacquered the water silver. We stood in a loose circle where the sand met the tide, hems fluttering in the breeze. I set the candle on a flat stone, struck the match, and watched flame bloom. This was meant for my family, I said, voice steady. But I think it was always meant for this family. Beverly pressed a shell into my palm. Nora whispered, "Home can start anywhere." One by one, they placed small offerings at the candle's base, a ribbon, a postcard, a tiny stone shaped like a heart. The ocean murmured approval, pulling at the sand around our ankles, as if urging us to release whatever still weighed us down. I turned toward James's picture, visible through the villa's open doors, and felt as if he were laughing along with us. Frances slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "Peace feels like this, doesn't it?" I nodded. Peace felt exactly like borrowed moonlight, shared silence, and a heartbeat steady in my chest rather than knocking for permission. Back on the terrace, we watched the candle burn low. No one hurried to bed. We savored the ordinary glory of staying where we were wanted. When the wick finally drowned in wax, we sat a moment longer listening to waves, breathing the same unhurried breath. Later, as I slid between cool sheets, I realized I had not checked my phone since morning. Whatever awaited in my inbox could wait forever if it wanted. Sleep took me quickly, scented with lavender and salt. At dawn, the villa was quiet, except for the kettle whistling. I wrapped a shawl around my shoulders and stepped onto the balcony. The sea stretched wide and, unjudging the horizon, a clean promise. I understood then that forgiveness does not always mean returning. Sometimes it means walking forward without dragging the anchor of what might have been. I had carried that anchor long enough. There, in the pastel hush of a new day, I let the rope slip from my hands. We spent our last sunrise side by side on the sand, coffee steaming in paper cups, gulls skimming the water like quick strokes of ink. No one spoke. We did not need to. When the sun finally cleared the rim of the ocean, it painted every wrinkle, every silver strand, every scar on our bodies with gold. I thought this is how a life should be lit at the end, not by fluorescent bulbs in a waiting room, but by daylight that forgives everything. The flight home felt lighter than the flight out. We shared crossword clues, swapped snacks, held hands during a rough patch of turbulence. At baggage claim, Carol hugged me so hard, her tote slipped from her shoulder. "You reminded me I'm still here," she said. One by one, the others echoed versions of the same truth. When the shuttle doors closed behind them, each turned to wave, and I realized the parting carried no ache, only gratitude. We would see each other again, because we chose one another now, not out of duty but desire. Back in my house, the silence was friendly for the first time in years. I smelled plumeria on my scarf and let the suitcase stay half unpacked. James's photo returned to its place on the mantel, yet the frame looked different. It held not just his memory, but everything the island had given us. I set the lavender candle stub beside it. Even burnt nearly to the base, it still scented the room. Only then did I open my laptop. 23 new emails, most from Nathan. The latest subject line read, "Please respond." I clicked it. "Mom, I have tried calling. I know you are hurt. The kids keep asking why Grandma is mad. We took out a loan to cover the mess at the airport, and interest is piling up. I am asking one more time, can you reimburse the amount you froze just until we get back on our feet? We can talk about everything after." Nathan, a hollow request wrapped in guilt and delay. I scrolled to the previous messages. None contained the words, "I am sorry." None asked what I needed or felt. I closed the inbox without replying. Some conversations end not with a clash, but with a door quietly latched. I opened a blank document instead and typed, "Grandma True Stories." Under that title, I wrote the first line that came to me. Kindness is not a bank account for other people's withdrawals. The cursor winked, inviting more. I described the bird bath James installed the mason jar behind the flower, the click of a button that froze more than money. I typed until my fingers tingled, pouring out the tale the way it deserved to be told. Later, I phoned Carol. "Would you read something for me?" She listened, laughed, cried when I reached the part about the candle on the beach, then said, "People need this." She offered to show it to the pastor's wife who ran the church bulletin. Frances wanted to post it on her widow's forum. Word traveled faster than I expected. Within a week, I was sending the story to a small online magazine for older women. They published it under the headline, "The Trip I Took After They Left Me Behind." Comments poured in grandmothers, aunts, neighbors, even younger mothers who felt sidelined. They wrote, "You put my silence into sentences." They wrote, "I thought it was just me." They wrote, "I am buying a jar today." I answered every message. Nathan found the article 2 days later. The phone rang over and over. I let it buzz out. Eventually, a single text arrived. I read it. "I didn't know you felt that way." No question, no apology, just a statement. I placed the phone face down again. The distance between understanding and accountability remains a gulf no parent can bridge alone. Spring melted into early summer. I met with the 6 women every Thursday at a cafe that served guava muffins. We planned small adventures, a day trip to the botanical garden, tickets to a symphony rehearsal, a class on watercolor postcards. We saved our change in a new jar labeled Next Tide. It filled quickly. Generosity multiplies when shared among those who appreciate its weight. One evening, Beverly called to say her brother had passed peacefully. She wanted to scatter some of his ashes at the same beach where she felt wind for the first time in years. We agreed to return together in the fall. I booked a modest condo, all costs split fairly this time, because everyone insisted. They said, "You gave us the first, yes, let us give you the next." A brown envelope arrived from the bank with the final refund check from the aborted family trip. I endorsed it and slid it straight into the Next Tide jar. Money, once the measure of my worth to others, had become a tool for chosen joy. I never blocked Nathan. I left the line open. Some doors stay unlocked, even when no one walks through, because hope, unlike trust, does not require permission. If he ever sends a message shaped like a real apology, I will read it, but I will not wait for it. One quiet Tuesday, I mailed a short letter to Tanya's mother. I wrote, "I wish you well. Take care of your knees. Hawaiian sidewalks are uneven. No bitterness, no signature beyond my name. Closure does not need to be loud." The blog grew. Readers mailed stamped envelopes with their own dream jar stories. I posted a photograph of the jar on my counter, now decorated with seashells from that night under the moon. Beneath it, I captioned, "Fill it with purpose, not with hope that others will see you. See yourself first." I still keep a seat for James at my kitchen table. Some mornings, I talked to him about the articles, the cafe meetings, the way Nora blushes when the barista calls her ma'am, because she's unaccustomed to being addressed at all. I tell him I finally learned the difference between giving and being taken. His picture seems to smile wider every time. Late in July, I received an invitation from a community college to speak to a continuing education class titled Writing Your Legacy. They offered a small stipend and all the coffee I could drink. I accepted. On the first day, I carried the mason jar with a few coins inside and set it at the front of the room. I told the students this is how stories start. Not with perfect grammar, not with grand events, but with spare change and a promise to yourself. After the lecture, a young woman approached, face shy beneath a curtain of dyed blue hair. "My mom and I hardly speak," she said. "I think she feels forgotten." "Could I share your article with her?" I placed the jar in the girl's hands. "Start one with her," I suggested. She nodded, tears bright. At dusk, I walked home past houses where porch lights blinked on. The cicadas hummed a midsummer choir. My phone stayed silent, and for once, I preferred it that way. I unlocked my front door, breath steady, heart unburdened. The living room smelled faintly of lavender, though the candle had long since burned out. I realize scent can linger long after the flame is gone, much like love that has learned healthy boundaries. I boiled water for tea and set 2 cups on the table out of habit. One for me, one for memory. Steam curled upward like a question already answered. I lifted my cup in a private toast to being seen, to choosing family, then choosing myself, to tides that turn and jars that fill, to every woman who thought silence was her only voice until she heard another break it first. The wind chime outside struck a single clear note as if agreeing. I looked around my quiet, kindly lit kitchen and understood in full I was never erased. I simply stepped out of the wrong picture and painted my own. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.